Hello, and welcome to another session of Level Up. Today, we're going to be talking about meal prep and how we can make meal prep nice and simple. So, let me share my screen. All right, let's jump into it. So, meal prep is one of those things that is really going to help you in your journey to those sustainable habits that you want to create, and takes a lot of freedom, gives you a lot of freedom with the choices that you're going to make. So, we're going to stop guessing what to eat. We're going to start building those systems that really work every single week, no matter how busy your life gets. So let's go through the reasons why we should be meal prepping. So most of us don't fail on our goals because we lack motivation. We actually fail because we leave too many decisions to the actual moment. All right. So what meal prep does is it removes that daily noise and replaces it with reliable systems. All right. So it gives us less decision fatigue. So there's no more staring into the fridge, wondering what we're going to eat. Your choices are already there for you. It really does help you to stay on track. So prepared food keeps you aligned with your health goals, even on the really busy days, because having something in the fridge ready to go really does help you stay on track, and you know that that is aligned to the goals that you've set in place. It does actually save time and money. So batch cooking slashes that grocery waste. So if we are buying what we know we're going to prep and have in the fridge, we're really not going to have a lot of waste. So it also reduces that takeout spending because we've got stuff in there ready to go. We're less likely to want to waste that and go and spend money on buying takeout. Okay. And then it can free up some of that time during your week because we're not thinking about what we're going to eat. Okay. We've done all that time prepping the food and it's there ready to go. Even if we we're still going to stop for lunch, but we're not wasting that time yet preparing it. And then consistency. And I always say to you guys all the time, consistency is what pays off. So progress comes from showing up repeatedly, okay? Not from being perfect once. It's from doing those little things consistently and repeatedly. And that's where our progress comes from. So it's the same with our meal prepping, okay? If we're consistently meal prepping and being prepared for our week, then we're set up for success. Okay. So I really love this little saying down the bottom. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your systems. So if you have good systems in place, you're going to succeed. Okay. So if you fall to the level of your systems and you have really good systems and they're in place, you're not going to fail. Okay. You're going to succeed because those systems are going to help you succeed. All right. So on a health and fitness journey, meal prepping is one of those systems that really helps you stay consistent and it helps you reach your goals. All right. So meal prep. A lot of people think that meal prep is bland and boring. All it is chicken and rice, that there's zero flexibility, but that's not what it is at all. Okay, so if you guys have been following me for a bit, you'll see that the food that I put up, that I meal prep, is actually like you look at it and you're like, wow, it looks nice. Okay, it looks appetizing. It's definitely not boring. I've got a few clients who often send me photos of their meal prep, and I'm like, wow, that looks so inviting. Okay, so I've often had, Kane sit next to me and go, oh, have you seen such and such post with their meal prep? Like, that looks incredible. Um, it makes me so proud to see you guys embracing meal prepping, but also learning that it doesn't have to be boring. Um, it can be something that you look forward to having. So meal prep is planning ahead. Okay, so making those smart decisions that save having bad ones later. All right, so you're setting yourself up for success, you're building convenience. So with that convenience means you're making the healthy choices easier. All right, so by having the meals in there and you know they're healthy and you know they're great and they've got variety and there's, flavor in them, it really does help making sticking to those healthy choices easier. So meal prep isn't boring food. It's definitely not hours in the kitchen. And it's also not about being perfect. Okay. So even if you're not meal prepping every single meal that you have, even meal prepping one meal for the day is going to have a big impact on your success. All right. So just quickly back to the hours in the kitchen. A solid session of meal prep is probably an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours. Wouldn't be over 2 hours. But if you think about the time that 2 hours is going to save across your whole week, it's definitely a lot more. By the time you think about how much it's going to take you to prep your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and your snacks, that 2 hour window saves you a lot of time over that week. All right, the basics. So, what we build every meal plan around. A lot of you don't have to worry about this because I build your meal plans for you. So even that, cognitive load is taken off you because I look at your macro breakdown and I look at your meals and I portion out, how much protein, carbs, fats, and fiber your meals are going to have. But I always start with, okay, what's the protein that we're going to have in this meal? That can be anything from chicken, mince, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. You've got your plant-based options like your tofu, your tempeh, your jackfruit, lots of options there as well. Then we look at our carb sources. So we're going to have our protein source, then we're going to have a carb source, whether that be rice, oats, a wrap, fruit, potatoes. It's the fuel that you need to go with your meal and pairs really nicely with the protein. And it's something that we don't want to fear. Okay, we don't want to fear having carbs. Then we need some healthy fats in there. So our nuts, our avocados, a little bit of olive oil, some nut butters. So what that does is those healthy fats help keep you satisfied, but they also support that hormone health. But with fats, a little bit goes a long way. Okay, so we don't need lots of it, but we do need to have it in there. And then we've got our fibers. So what vegetables, fruits, seeds, legumes, what fiber are we going to have in our meals to help support our healthy gut? All right, so we're going to build our meals with our protein first, and then we're going to add in the carbs, the fats, and the fibers. All right, so we can see in these pictures here, all of like these bowls here, that's our our fiber and our carbohydrates. And we've got, sweet potato and rice up here. And then we've got some meat and edamame in there. So edamame is very, very high in protein as well. So kind of 4 steps. 4 steps to meal planning, pretty simple. Step 1 is to plan. Okay. And like I was saying before, I take the guesswork out of it for you. So that part is mostly done. Okay. So you're going to look at your week ahead, identify your busiest days, social commitments, when you're available to cook, and you're going to decide when you're going to do your meal prep. You're going to choose 2 to 3 main meals. So a lot of people don't meal prep dinner, but they will meal prep their breakfast, their lunch, and if they've got any snacks in between. So the other thing is to embrace that repetition. Variety is nice, but consistency is what builds results. Okay, so repeating meals reduces that decision fatigue and it also makes your shopping easier. Now, in a lot of your meal plans, I've given you variety, but I haven't given you too much variety because there's so much flavor in the ones that you do have. But just say you only want to meal prep for like 3 days in a row. So you meal prep on a Sunday for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then you meal prep again on Wednesday for Thursday through to Sunday. So you 4 days. So you can have the first half of your week with one type of meal and then the second half with a different type. Okay, so if you are someone who needs that little bit of variety across the week, you can still meal prep, just do it in 2 different batches. So step number 2 is shop smart. So write your list and stick to it. So the impulse buys that you have during your shopping is what can often derail your progress. Because if you've got it in the cupboard, if you've got it in the fridge, you're more likely to reach for it if it's there. This ties really nicely into that never shop hungry. So if you go to the shops hungry, you're more likely to put stuff in your trolley that you don't actually need because you're hungry. So my tip is to, as you're shopping, either have a drink and have something to drink while you're shopping. I usually take a coffee with me, or have something to eat before you go shopping, or snack on a piece of fruit or something while you're shopping. Because by curbing that hunger while you're shopping, you're less likely to put things in your trolley. Okay. So writing a list and not shopping hungry are 2 key things that will really stop you from putting things in your trolley and bringing them home and then having them there in your house to be available for you to grab. Choosing simple ingredients. So the fewer components a meal has, the faster and easier it is to prep. So like you would have seen in a lot of my pictures, my meals look great, but they're quite simple. So if you look up here, we've got rice, we've got some vegetables, variety of color in there, and we've got the meat. So with the meat, you can mix that up with different flavors, have it in different sauces, have different seasoning on it. You can create, a variety of different flavors just in how you coat your meat. Same with your oat pots and your chia pots. Like the base ingredients are the same, but then you can mix up the flavors with like different fruits. You can put some cocoa powder in there to make it chocolate. So there's so many different things that you can do. So even with your oat pots and your chia pots, depending what protein powder you put in, is what kind of flavor that's going to be as well. So remembering that simplicity equals consistency. The simpler your shopping list, the easier your prep session will be. Step number 3 is cooking. All right. So this is obviously where the magic happens, but it doesn't need to feel overwhelming. So what we want to do is batch cook. But actually, let me step back a bit, because a lot of people don't like cooking, and that's completely okay. But you want to try to make it enjoyable. For me, my meal prep time is one of my favorite times of the week, because I actually pop my headphones in, I put my phone up on the kitchen, and I watch Netflix while I'm meal prepping. And it is literally the only time I watch TV in my whole week. So I have my show that I watch, I pop it on, I'm cooking, I'm listening, I'm watching a little bit of it, and I'm just in that zone where I really enjoy it. So you might not be able to watch Netflix while you're cooking. You might be someone who really has to focus on the screen. You can pop some music on. You can put a podcast on. It might be that time during the week where you actually get to listen to something that you've been wanting to listen to. Okay, so don't forget, in the Grit and Glow Spotify playlist, I've got podcast recommendations in there, all centered around health and nutrition and fitness. So perfect time to be able to pop that on as well. And yeah, just find something that when you're meal prepping, you can pair a really good habit with, and it becomes something that's quite enjoyable. So with our step 3, we're going to batch cook our proteins. So you're going to cook, okay, just say You're going to cook 7 days of, well, let's go 5 days of chicken. You know that you have 100 grams of chicken each day for lunch. You're going to cook 500 grams of chicken, and then you're able to separate that into 5 different containers. So with me, with my chicken, I'd get it all, I would marinate it, or I'd put seasoning on it, pop it in the air fryer, cooks in 20 minutes, take it out, chop it up, put it into my 5 containers. Then what I would do is with my carbohydrates, whether that's rice, sweet potato, pasta, quinoa, couscous, whatever that is, whatever's in my meal plan for the week, cook that in bulk. And again, separate that into my 5 containers once that's cooked. Then, depending what you're having with it, if you're having vegetables, you can cook up all your veggies, separate it, that's fine because you can heat that whole meal up at the one time. If you're having like salad with it, you just portion your salad into another container. So then when it comes time, you heat up your carbs and your proteins, heat that up, pop that on top of your salad, and away you go. Okay, so super easy. Using things like air fryers cooks your meat really quickly. Slow cooker is great as well. So you can put a whole heap of like chicken in there, shred the chicken. You can have, your slow cooked chicken in your meals. If you're making up a big bolognese sauce, pop it in the slow cooker. Then it's so easy to just separate into those containers once it's done. And then step number 4, which is pretty much what I just went over, is assembling. So as you can see here in these pictures, we've got containers laid out. Okay, so this is, batches of like for 4 days. So yeah, super easy. Lay your containers out, portion everything into your containers, and then it's so easy to grab and go. So in this top picture here, these are like oat pots. Usually I do them in pots. These ones are in containers. Doesn't really matter whether it's a pot or a container. Same principle. Put all your oats in, put all your yogurt in, all that kind of stuff. Mix it all together. Let it sit overnight. This up here is really great. It's got little containers of fruit and nut mix set out. So what we tend to do with things like fruit and nut mixes is if we're just getting it from the jar, we tend to overeat. And then fruit and nut mixes are really, really dense and high calorie. So there's definitely a place for them because they've got amazing fats in them. However, you do really want to portion those out. So having little containers like these, where you go, right, I'm going to portion out whether it's 30 grams, 40 grams, and have them sitting there. So when I do need to grab them, they're already done and you already know how much you're eating because it is so easy to overeat with, things like your fruit and nut mixes, and they're very high in calories. So that is one thing to watch. Then you've got your little containers here with your veggies. Okay, so you can use them as little snack pots as well. If you just need a quick snack to keep you going, they are very, very low in calories. Something like your protein balls, make those up and know that, it might be 1 or 2 that you can have each day. So yeah, assembling is, once it's all cooked, assembling is like a really, really easy part. Okay, time-saving tips to work smarter. So you don't need to dedicate a whole day to meal prepping. Like I said, it should really only take between an hour or 2. You can prep 2 to 3 days at a time. You don't need to do a full week, or you can just start off with doing like 1 meal at a time. So it might just be that you do all your breakfasts for the week. Using the same base ingredients, it works really well. So if you love rice, use rice as your base ingredient. Okay, then you might have chicken 1 week and then you might have like mince the next week. Okay, so you can mix that up. But some of the common mistakes that people often make with meal prepping is overcomplicating meals. So Your meals don't need to be overly complicated. Like I showed you before, just putting together your proteins, carbs, fats, and fiber, all of that together, you can create an absolutely incredible meal. Trying to prep everything. So if we go gung ho right at the beginning, right, I'm going to meal prep all of my breakfast, all of my lunch, all of my snacks, all of my dinner, and then it becomes super overwhelming, you're less likely to stick to that. So pick a goal, go right this week, I'm going to just do my breakfast and my snacks, and then you can build up from there. Having no plan means you're going to rely on willpower. So willpower is actually a limited resource. So it runs out by 6 p.m., okay, for most people, or 3 p.m. 3 p.m. seems to be that time where everyone gets like really hungry. And it's like, if I don't have anything prepared, I'm just going to grab the first thing that's available to me. So having these systems and these habits in place actually carry you past motivation, past when motivation runs out and past when, willpower runs out. So having that plan and having something there is always going to keep you on that path rather than relying on like the willpower during that time. So we need to take a little bit of a mindset shift. Okay. So with meal prepping, it actually gives us some freedom from stress. So when we know that our meals are already done and our meals are already there for the week, that mental space that we usually put towards, oh, what am I going to eat? What am I going to cook? Oh, I feel really bad now because I've eaten that. I shouldn't have eaten that. Like that mental space then is available for other things. Okay, so we can take that stress out of thinking about what we're going to have to eat. It also gives us that freedom from making poor choices because we've all been there in that moment where we've got nothing prepped, nothing to eat. We need to get something really quick. So we just grab for something that's really easy. It's usually in a packet and it's usually going to make us feel really shit afterwards. So by being prepared saves us from those poor choices. And then it also gives us the freedom to stay consistent. So, and we know, and you're probably sick of hearing me say it, that consistency is what's going to get you those lasting results. Okay. And meal prep is just that simple system that helps with that consistency week after week. All right. So instead of thinking about meal planning as restricting yourself, think of it as buying back your freedom and buying back your energy to be able to give that to other things in your life. Okay, so that's a really, really nice way to be able to shift that lens. So just quickly, a realistic example of, something that I meal prep every single day, every single week, and I still love it. It's not super fancy, but it really does the job and it hits everything that I need. So I've got my oat pots and I love those. Oats, almond milk, I put peanut butter in there, berries. Sometimes I put cocoa powder in there to give it a chocolatey flavor. Depending what flavor protein powder I've got, I can pop that in there as well. I can put some coconut on the top. I can mix some chia seeds in there. Like there are endless possibilities with being able to make oat pots. They sit so nicely in the fridge, ready to go. Like I can make 7 and by the 7th day, they still taste just as good as, the first one that I popped in there. Same with chia pods. Okay, you know that I'm a huge fan of chia pods. Chia seeds are amazing for us. The mango and shredded coconut in there is great. Yogurt, putting yogurt in there. Even if you've got tinned fruit in the fridge, in the cupboard, tinned peaches or 2 fruits or mango or anything like that, you can pop in there. And taco mince bowls. I'm a huge, huge fan of taco mince bowls. And even you can put all those ingredients on a wrap as well. Same as taco mince balls, but replace the taco with chicken. Just, yeah, so many different flavors that you can have. So these are like really simple, they're repeatable, and they're really effective. Okay. You don't really need a new recipe every week. If you want changes, you can actually just change some of the flavors in them, and it feels like you're having a whole new meal. Okay, so that's something really simple. There are three staples in my fridge all the time. So if you haven't meal prepped before, what I want you to do is prepare your breakfast. Okay, so it might be that you have, we'll stick with oat pots. Okay, oat pots are great for breakfast. Or actually, I make a really good egg muffin. So, break up the eggs, put some more egg whites in, use a silicone muffin tray, put some vegetables in each one, pour the egg mix over the top, pop it in the oven, pull it out. Oh my God, you've got these like little egg, like mini quiche things. They are amazing. And four of those for a breakfast, it's so filling and so full of protein. Yeah, it's incredible. And then you've got your vegetables in there as well. So yeah, they're really good to have as breakfast. You can prep a whole heap of those, put four in a container, four in another container, so forth, put them in the fridge, heat them up in the morning. There's your breakfast. Okay. So prep your lunches. Yeah. Pick a protein, pick a carb, chuck some veggies or a salad in with that. There's your lunch ready to go. Your snacks, really important to prep these, whether it's like weighing out your little, fruit and nut mix, or it could be preparing like cheese and crackers and having those pre-portioned out, because people can get carried away with eating lots of cheese or eating lots of crackers. But if you've got it portioned out ready to go, okay, once I've had those, that's it, that's my snack done. Okay. Just building momentum. One successful week becomes two successful weeks, and then two successful weeks become rolls into like that healthy habits and the lifestyle that you want to create. Okay. So consistency beats perfection every time. Yep, I say it all the time. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a plan that you'll actually follow. And that's why working with me and me doing your meal plans is, we work hand in hand together, where I get feedback from you. You say, yep, I like that. I don't like that. Can we change these flavors? Whatever that be. But that partnership that we have where we're working together really helps you with that consistency. All right. So, and all the meals that I pick are quite easy to meal prep. Right. I try not to make them overcomplicated. I'll put little suggestions at the bottom of the recipes. It might be use frozen berries if you can, or, instead of having all the individual spices, if you want to go and buy a spice mix already done, that saves you a bit of time as well. So all these little things that will help you with your meal prep. So we're going to build the systems, we're going to start small, and then you're going to trust the process. All right. And then meal prepping, I can guarantee you, will have such a big impact on your life and with your results. Okay. So I'm just going to leave these pictures up here while I talk about the next little bit. So the last thing I really wanted to touch on was how food has now become associated with not just food as fueling our body. Okay, food has really become something that we associate with a lot of different things. So, for example, we eat based on feelings, based on our habits, and based on our environment. So, in our society now, food is very much associated with lots of different things. So, for example, when we think about emotions, if we're stressed, sometimes we'll often eat more. If we're bored, we will eat. Um, if we're sad, we'll eat. And we do pair that a lot with, so for example, if a child is being naughty, for example, a lot of the times parents will say, if you behave yourself, we'll take you out for an ice cream. If you behave yourself, we'll give you this lolly. Okay. And I think we do it so subconsciously that we're actually conditioning kids from such a young age to pair behaviors and emotions with food. Okay. So we're then detaching the food is there to fuel our body for a reason, and we're now associating it with other environmental cues. So habits as well. Habits is a big one. So if we go to a social event, so a birthday party, what is there? There's always an abundance of food at birthday parties. So this is more environment actually. So we might rock up there and we might not be hungry at all, but we'll eat because it's there, and we associate going to these social events with eating. Okay, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying we need to be mindful of how many things in our lives that are associated with food. And often it's not the best kind of food for our health. Habits, like we might just really get into that habit of sitting down watching TV every night and having some chocolate, or having some ice cream without even thinking, am I actually hungry or do I really need this? It then just becomes a habit. And these things happen so often. People will sit down and have a cup of tea and then associate that with having a biscuit with it. Not because they want the biscuit, it just becomes habit. So, yeah, I just wanted to point out, there's so many other things I could go into where even like using food as a reward. I've had such a hard day, so I really deserve to have a piece of cheesecake. Or I've had a really hard day, I deserve to have a beer. So we pair things with emotions and then with food. So it could be, I've got the other notes that I've got down is if you be good, you'll get a treat. Okay, so it creates that link between food and reward. And food then no longer becomes just the purpose of fueling our body. It really then just has so much attachment to other things. Food is comfort a lot as well. What else have I got? Food is also used for connection, with those celebrations and it's great. And I'm definitely not saying that because like everyone else, I love going to certain events because I'm like, oh, there's going to be some great food there, or Christmas comes around, oh, there's going to be trifle, or there's going to be rumbles, or whatever, we associate that celebration. But I just wanted you to be really mindful of the connection that we do make with food and external factors, not just things that fuel our body. So the biggest thing that we need to talk about then is, or need to like kind of reframe, is behavior becomes your identity. So I want you to reframe your thinking to be you're someone who is learning to be consistent. All right. So not saying that you're someone who has no willpower, because we want to kind of reframe that. Or if you're someone that says, I always fall off track, we want to try to reframe that to be, I'm someone who is learning to be consistent. Okay. So the more that we can, tell ourselves that and have that bit of self-talk, then that's going to lead to being consistent. And it could be even saying, I'm someone who identifies as being healthy. Okay. Rather than being like, oh, I fall off track and I'm not healthy and I make bad choices. It's no, like reframe that. I'm identifying as someone who's learning to be really healthy. or I'm learning to have those conscious thoughts around like why I'm eating what I'm eating, or, why I'm associating this food with this behavior. So yeah, just some things, just some food for thought. There we go. Just some food for thought. Um, yeah, we don't often think about that and think about that association. So yeah, I hope you guys have found that really useful. I hope it's given you a bit of motivation into, hey, I'm going to give meal prep a go. It's going to save me so much time. I'm going to feel better about being prepared, and, I'm going to take control of, yeah, of my week, and I'm going to be consistent. So I really hope you got a lot out of that. Um, yeah. So I will catch you in the next one. I just need to turn this off. But yeah, I'll chat to you all soon.